We got GM Elshan in the house, as well as David here for Dojo Talks, a special edition of Dojo Talks training. Um, yeah, we have a couple of fun topics. You guys can see what we've got in store. We're gonna do a little bit differently. Normally we have like a time limit for each topic, but we're just gonna kind of flow naturally. And once we're done talking about one thing, we'll just move on to the next. Elshan, how are you doing? You ready to talk some chess?
I would like to say hello to all of your audience, and it's good to be here with you guys. Yeah, I'm ready for any chat yet.
All right, well, let's do it. Well, the first thing actually I want to mention is that you just have a new book out called Sherlock's Method.
I have it here.
Oh, nice. Yeah, show it. Awesome. And actually, well, like before the stream, we were just saying you like nowadays you consider yourself more of like a chess coach and a chess author more than like a professional player. So let's just start with like what was your idea for the book? I know you wrote it with Sabina, and yeah, tell us what it's about.
Yeah, so the idea for the book actually came to me the very first time I visited, and the first and last time I visited London in 2013. So I'm a big fan of Sherlock Holmes, and I was walking to 221 Baker Street, the actual address that actually they turned it into a museum. And then it was like 10-15 minutes walk, and it was a very nice sunny day in London. And it was a very nice walk, and I walked to I don't know what this is called, but it belongs to Malcolm Pine, the chess shop, basically the biggest one in London.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking that how cool would it be that using a character like Sherlock Holmes teaching chess. So the idea came to me in that walk, and for years I was just thinking about it. How could it be? Then I shared it last year with Sabina, and she seemed to be interested because I tend to think about concepts more in chess than engine analysis. I do a lot of engine analysis because of the nature of my work, of course, but the concepts and the way to think about ideas, and once the theory ends or the simple candidate moves run out, how to think, how to come up with them. So then I started writing, and the way I would describe it is that this book wouldn't have started if it weren't for me, and it couldn't finish if it wasn't for Sabina, because she would keep track, in terms of the she would analyze very thoroughly and decide which positions to keep, because we have 300, we have 42, 270 plus 42, 312 positions in the book.
Mm-hmm.
And but we looked over 1,000 positions to decide, to pick, and Sabina did a fantastic job on that part. I had all of these, and she had some, and we would go back and forth, and it was because I just keep going and going, and this is kind of my tendency, and at some point you just have to stop and move to the next chapter, or sometimes you have to add more. So she did a great job on that, helping me, and I think we did a good work on that part together. So that's how it all, the layout is. So there are 3 parts in the book: part 1, part 2, and we call them parts, and each one starts with the conversation between mostly Watson and Holmes, and the narrator is of course Watson, and the story is that Sherlock is helping Watson to prepare for a tournament, and the book is about how to prepare for a tournament. There's no theme. It's about, I'm about to play a tournament in 3 weeks, and that's what's happening to Watson. And then here it is. There's no theme. There's nothing. I am getting you ready with these trainings to get ready to play a tournament.
It's interesting. So it's essentially like a book of exercise. So you mentioned the 3 sections. So the chapters are called simple positions, end games, and then complex decisions.
Yes.
And so these are like, are these like calculation exercises, or like a mix of decision making?
Mix of everything. You mix of everything. It can be sometimes as simple as finding a 2 move forks, or it can be as complex as a 2 phases prophylactics.
Right.
But the thing is that you see the position and you try to be as practical as possible. And in our answers also, and what we said a lot in the we emphasized and through the book again and again, and we tell people who are interested in the book that definitely read the answers. There's more than just moves there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you just have like, yeah, specially annotated answers. No, I agree. I think that's one of the most important parts of the whole process. Just seeing the ideas that you missed and having them explained to you. So
I believe if you are looking for just a training book, you are better off. If you just want to solve some positions and improve your calculation, you are better off really just doing some on chess.com or some other tactics or whatever. But if you're looking for a practical decision-making process and understanding that and see all the complexities back and forth, then this is where you want to, use this book.
So I know people always ask this, so I'm just gonna say it right off the bat. So it says the book is aimed for players between 1700 and 2300. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha. So basically anyone who wants to prep for a tournament in this range gets this book, and then it's just like a great like training regimen. And do you recommend they finish it in like 3-4 weeks, or how should they pace it?
Okay, well, I also imagine that these people will be consistently working on chess. If they are not professionals, obviously they cannot finish the book.
So it's like a multiple...
3-4, yeah, so 3-4 weeks sounds right, sounds about right. As long as they are consistent every day, putting some time into it. It's not a kind of book that you would read it today and you stop and go back and next week continue. That's not the kind of book. I recommend someone who wants to study it for a month and be done with it. And then the way we say also in the book, once you see your mistakes and you write it down, we say that write down your thinking process, see if you have a mistake, compare, and slip on it, go play your tournament, whatever, and come back in a month and compare and answer them again and compare.
Yeah, makes sense. Actually, people are asking for a link in the book. Yeah, so silly. Let me get that for you guys real quick. It's available on Thinkers Publishing, right?
Yeah, and also if they want to write me, I have few copies left. I can send a signed copy to them.
Oh, sure. How should people contact you for that?
If you can share my email address, you have my email address, I think.
Yeah.
That would be a bit.
Sure thing. Let me grab that real quick. In the meantime, David, maybe you can ask Elshan about what he would do if he was in the Ultimate Sensei.
I really wanted to ask you this, Elshan. I mean, I don't know if you would ever want to be like a guest, be one of the coaches on our Ultimate Sensei show, because we'll be having, more and more seasons of it with new coaches and new students and so forth. But I briefly described the idea to you. You've got 6 to 8 weeks to get a student ready for a tournament. You can give them a couple lessons a week, and you can give them stuff to work on in between, Do you have any like immediate thoughts as to what you would have your student do if you were in one of these competitions?
What I would do, yeah. So the first 2 sessions is that we have to figure out what their weaknesses and strengths are. Then the second 2 sessions, let's say if I have 3 weeks, so I would say two sessions per week. I mean, sounds reasonable, right? I mean, normally if you have a competition coming up, you have to do more, but let's say 2 sessions.
Okay.
The next 2 sessions we'll work on that. I'll give them positions, work on those facts, and I'll give them a list of heuristics based on what they need to they try to assimilate that kind of thinking process into their game so they overcome their weaknesses and reinforce their strength. Last week, I'll give them some training in the end game and definitely making sure that they have a fixed repertoire for the entire event, regardless of what result they have. So that's what I will do probably.
And the sort of like training puzzles you would give them in the middle week, would those be mostly directed towards their weaknesses or?
Mostly probably, yeah.
Okay.
But also, once a person has a tournament in 3 weeks, you don't want to hammer them down and say, "Oh, wait a second, you're so bad at this." That would take the self-confidence. So I'll try to go maybe 65-35. So 65 on the weaknesses, 35 on their strength, and kind of try to boost their self-confidence.
I see. So give them some easy pitches as well that are like letting them show.
I call it easy, but something they're good at. For example, you can say complex tactics. I give them some complex tactics. Oh, you see, you're good at this. You've got to enter positions like this, make decisions to enter sharp positions, or they can make easy decisions quite fast. So you have to go for easy, simple lines and easy decision-making processes, and simplify your thinking process. So you kind of give them a guideline, guide them through the path of choosing what kind of positions they want to play. Because at the end of the day, you cannot force feed them certain openings, right? They have to feel comfortable with those openings.
Yeah.
So I just dropped the link for everyone in the chat where you can pick up Elshan's book at thinkerspublishing.com. I checked Amazon. I think it's on pre-order there.
December 8th is the date.
Right, December 8th. And also for people watching this or listening to this later, you can contact Elshan at elshan.moradiabadi@gmail.com if you want to reach him for a signed copy of the book. So yeah, we're going to talk a lot more about training actually. So I guess as a bit of backstory, Elshan and I worked together a few years ago when I was around like 2350, 2360 range, and I had like two IM norms, really trying to get the third one, get like past 2400 FIDE. And I hadn't worked with a coach for a while, but I hired Elshan for some training over the course like a couple of months, and it was great. It pushed me over 2400, got the IM title. that was a big success for us. So we'll definitely talk about that as well. I want to ask for the book. You probably mentioned this, but I assume you want people to set these positions up over the board, right?
If they are that good that they can solve it in their head and without setting them up, that's fine. That will save them some time. But I would say put it on the board. Definitely do not move the pieces. I'm sure David says that to the students. You said you tell this to your students: do not move the pieces, and use the amount of time and write down your thinking process. Do not assume, because sometimes you don't write it down and you assume, oh, I saw that. So you saw two moves and you think you saw the entire process. It's not how it works. Write down everything comes to your mind and try to compare to the actual answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of writing it down.
I found very few students will do that. Will really follow your directions on that kind of work.
How many do I have?
No, I'm saying I've found in my experience, very few students will really follow precisely those directions. Like really like write everything down and then compare it carefully afterwards.
Well, the problem with the book is that, and nowadays, for example, when I train sometimes on, I don't want to promote anyone specifically, but for example, on lead chess, it's easy to put notes and everything. So for them, my students at least, they do that. They put whatever lines come to their mind and they put some notes there. So that's good. But, or I think they can do it probably on chess.com as well. I don't know. But
to do that, don't they have to play out the variation?
Yeah, but they only have one. They cannot just go through, like they put one move and they stop there and think again. Whatever comes in their mind, they put it. Sometimes there are some stupid lines, but that's okay. It's obvious that whatever came to their mind, they're putting it there. And then they put some comments or lines or sidelines or whatever comes in their mind in one shot. I think for 15 minutes, this is whatever comes to my mind, and this is my answer. I asked them to put it on ChessBase file, a PGN, and send it to me. So that works like that. The problem with the book is that it's hard copy, so they have to put it somewhere, or I don't know, make a position on ChessBase and then do it there. I would suggest to do that. Probably make a ChessBase file, make a PGN, whatever. I mean, you probably can do it on leadchess.com, ChessBase, whatever people have, and keep track. I do that for myself too.
I do it for myself too. I do it on stream and then I show them my papers, so I'm like, do it.
I put it on ChessBase actually. I don't put it on the paper, but I make the position on ChessBase, and whatever comes to my mind, I just put the comments there, save it, and that's it.
Okay.
Very cool. Well, yeah, maybe we can move on to our next topic here, which is just to ask Elshan for some general training advice for different levels. So Elshan, you mentioned you worked with a lot of players. Do you coach like full time nowadays, or how much coaching are you doing?
I mean, depends on, it also has to do with the market, how much people will take lessons from you. But in terms of availability, I try to make myself as available as possible. But yeah, I would say I'm a full-time coach, but the one very interesting thing is that in the past year, I worked with players as low as 1100 and as high as 2650.
It's high.
So that gave me a lot of perspective.
Yeah, can you mention the higher rated player in that range? That's fine. Had to ask. So yeah, of course it's very, very different to work at the various levels. Do you find you have to adjust mentally, and what's the hardest part about that?
Yeah, that, and also try to understand what's going on in their head.
Right.
And also, when I mentioned this range, there's a gap. I haven't worked with GMs at 2500 range, like my rating, much. So I actually missing what myself thinks this way, because I see very sharp 2650s, I see 2450s, which I have better understanding of them, and I can show them something. But I haven't trained with players. Actually, I have with one actually recently, but just maybe we trained for a couple of weeks and that's it. But mostly it was the other part of the range. So back to your question. Sorry, what was that?
Well, actually, I'm curious. So when you do work with like a 2650, someone who's like a bit higher rated than you, is it you're working with them on openings or you're giving them positions? How does that work?
Well, I mean, I'm kind of old. They will understand that as a chess player. So and we've probably seen things. When I started playing chess, it was Fritz 2, and Fritz 2 was really not much of an engine, right? David, I think you agree with me, right?
Yeah.
And
so yeah.
And I had my notebook, but not notebook the way they used to refer to, laptops in the first generations of laptop. I just had notebooks, written opening lines or analysis or everything. So texts and understanding and candidate moves and evaluation was big. So I think that's what I bring to the table for those players. A lot of experience on evaluation and see the trend of the game. Unless there are some forced line or something very explosive that I can miss, engine can show, or they're better feeling for tactics or dynamic could show. But other than that, if it's a degree of complexity of the position, I'm not being so proud of myself here saying that. Just a lot of experience and a lot of studying, reading different books, and the way I was trained. That's what I bring to the table for them. That's what I have for them.
And speaking of, I imagine you've worked with a lot of coaches when you were growing up.
I was very blessed on that part. I mean, honestly, I didn't do enough as a player for the kind of training I received. I should say that.
Were there some people who were most influential in your own training?
It's what, when you train with. Okay, I give you 5 names, and I just tell you, and these people were not, the person who really helped me a lot, I have to mention and give a lot of credit, Sarkhan Guliyev from Azerbaijan. He was my coach for 2 years, brought me from 2250 to 2500 level.
Yeah.
Did a great job, I still sometimes talk to him, and I had this talk on World Champions, and I was talking about certain things, and it's very interesting the kind of conversation I had with him, like 20 years ago. We would sit and talk about and the way I see things. I know a lot of positions, a lot of games, a lot of dates, a lot of history, and that's how I was trained. I would ask his opinion. I would say, this is yes or no, or we agree or disagree on certain things. Now I'm a GM. At the time I wasn't. But okay, apart from Guliev, I trained with Short, Korchnoi, Seshkovsky,
wow.
Alex Onishuk, when I was at Texas Tech. I trained with Trigubov, Andrei Sokolov. I mean, all these names. You can say who can be more influential.
Mm-hmm.
I've learned a lot from, and Vladimirov, who is an endgame expert, and probably David knows that name. Less known for maybe for the new generation, but one of the endgame experts out there.
Very cool.
What's that?
Very cool. No, it's just that's so many legends in one sentence.
With jealousy.
Yeah, as I said, I didn't do as much as my education. So.
Well, I mean, I think you became a really strong player, and well, let's get into the advice. So, what do you generally see at like the lower end of the range, like players rated 1,000, 11, 1,200? Like, do you notice any typical mistakes they're doing, like in their training, or how they approach trying to improve?
Let me put it this way. Although I train players at that level, I wouldn't consider myself an expert in understanding what exactly their need is. What I figured out that works for me and my students at that level is that because they believe me a lot, they will follow my direction. And because they need to improve on everything, they will do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always work like that, because some people want to kind of be more specific, and I may have problem kind of have a focus on what is the best for them, because I think that they have to improve on everything, and some people want to be more specific about it. So it will be a challenge for me if I want to have a 1200 at that level.
Mm.
But once they leave things to me, because they absolutely believe that what I want to do is that, and that's a long term, it works. So I wouldn't consider myself the biggest expert on 1200 level, 10
Sure.
to 1000 to 1200 level. But that's how it was. They have to just kind of focus on improving on every aspect, and I equally push it in every direction.
And do you think they should be like focusing on one or two things at a time, or working on everything kind
Everything.
of simultaneously?
Just spread it simultaneously. That's what I believe.
Oh, interesting.
I specialize until after 1600. Until 1600, almost I would say my training is all about the same. Just you have to just add knowledge on certain areas.
Right. Well, let's say
Middle games, calculation, decision making, practical, time management, just everything.
Simple end games, everything. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
let's say we'll give you a guinea pig. He's 1200. He's willing to do whatever you tell him for 4 hours a day. Just whatever you tell him. Like, what would you have him do?
Well, first 1200. I first have to make sure that how fast he is. So, the first week he has to finish step 1 and step 2. The books, the Dutch books.
Oh yeah, those are popular.
That if they can finish it in a week time, that means they're fast learners. But then I can see how fast they can learn, how much info they can absorb in how much time. So that's my measure. That's the first thing I'll ask them to do. Finish book 1 and 2, and start 3, and tell me where you start stumbling and making mistakes. That's what that would be. That gives me, then I look where exactly they start making mistakes, and then I start laying out a curriculum for them.
Okay.
Good start.
Yeah, maybe 4 hours is quite optimistic. They'll tell you 4 hours, and then it'll be like 40 minutes. Oh, no.
Come on, when I was 1200, I was doing like 10 hours a day. 4 is not that much.
Oh yeah. Oh wow. Nice.
I can tell you one story, just how much obsession is important with anything to improve.
Yeah.
I was going to a very competitive high school in Iran, and we were studying advanced, pre-university level, although we were like second year in high school, and we had physics and chemistry and all those science courses. And I'll take my chess book, the Soviet which ones that with quality chess, and they have it, the Romanovsky book, Soviet school, or that one. And there was another one by Mizelis, and there was another one, and the position Sarkhan would give me. And I'll open my book, and I had my notes on papers, and I put them there, and I started reading from that. So basically, the entire school time, I was reading my chess content.
Me too.
High five, David. Good.
Yeah.
I think that's
We played blindfold chess with my chess club members by passing like papers.
That's beyond. I couldn't do that. I would be expelled from the class. No, I couldn't do that. I was playing blindfold in the breaks, but no, that would be too much. Good job, David.
That's funny.
That's
Actually,
what I'm talking about.
now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, in college I was solving tactics puzzles on my phone during the lectures. So yeah, that's always gonna be a thing. Okay, let's move on to club level. So players that are like more in like the 15, 16, 1800 range.
Up to 2000 maybe.
Up to 2000, sure. Yeah, like they already have, some openings they like. They still have some opening holes in calculation, holes in endgame. They still have holes, in my experience, all over the place.
Everywhere, but they already have like 1 or 2 developed strengths here or there, as well as some weaknesses, maybe some things they've learned wrong along the way.
And that's the problem. Good point, David. That's where the problem starts, because you have to fix something they have developed heuristics around it, and that's bad heuristics, bad judgments, and you have to fix that. Like, one of the things we have problem with, the kids start, and you have to give them value of the pieces, but the value of the pieces is relative.
Mm-hmm.
It changes by the time, it changes by the position. We know it nowadays with analyzing, especially if you use Lila at our level and higher. There are positions that Lila just says +3, and you look at the position, and if you let the engine starfish runs on a high depth, you see it's +3, but it's simply a piece down for a pawn, and it looks like, to me, it looks like initiative, but it stays all the way through, and the initiative is decisive.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that the piece sacrifice is fully justified, but if you want to explain the same thing to an 1800, because they were told all along, count the material. That's the very first thing that you tell them. You condition them to do the math.
Right.
Yeah, they have a hard time departing from that and playing for initiative. That's one of the hardest things to teach to an 1800, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially if they don't have that concrete combination that they're winning something, then they have to be down material for a while. Do you have any favorite ways of teaching that? Do you typically show examples? Do you focus on game analysis? Like, here are moments where you could have sacrificed but didn't. How do you approach that?
Yeah, I have my own database of positions, and I keep updating them.
Mm-hmm.
I do a lot of research, and I read books too. I mean, I don't try to reinvent the wheel. So if I see a position on chess.com as I'm solving tactics, and I find it interesting, or if I see somebody's posted some article, or on Chess24, or I don't know, some other places, wherever I see something, if I see it's interesting or in a book, I'll add it to my curriculum. I'm not saying that I wouldn't look at other sources, but I also look into the games and I develop my own curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, people always want to know, do you think people spend too much time on openings at this level? Because that's always the debate, because there's
at the 1800 level.
Yeah.
It's a very difficult question to answer. I'm not sure, because luck plays a great role in players suddenly jumping to 2200. I've had people with 1800 with right openings, they jump to 2200, but it was because the opening trick was working out. So on one hand, you can say, oh, great, spending time on opening worked out, but then they stagnate.
Yeah.
And there are some people who improve at chess, but because of their overly solid openings, they have a very incremental, slow growth at that level. And they want to get there. For example, their kids, they will go to college very soon, and they want to improve. So there's always this trade-off, which is putting me in a very hard position to say how much opening is enough.
Mm. So in general, if you mentioned wanting to give your student a solid repertoire. If they don't necessarily have something, are you looking for giving them the main lines, or do you try to find just lines that will work for the specific student, for example?
I always adapt to what makes them feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that level, you have to feel comfortable, always.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I found as well. I feel like most coaches eventually kind of settle on this.
I have, if they don't have any repertoire, I offer them something. Then I adjust based on, for example, I offer a certain line against Pirk, for example, and it works for some, and it doesn't work. And and some line, for example, against Caro-Kann, and some line, for example, against French. And let's say for 80%, there's a correlation that they all like the French and Caro, but they don't like the answer against the Pirk. So I have to adapt. I have to adjust. I have to give them something different there.
Mm-hmm.
So I offer them a certain repertoire, but if I have to adjust, I'll see what they need, and based on that, I'll adjust. But that's when they don't have any repertoire of their own, and they just come to me for a repertoire.
Right. Okay, and then how about the pro level? Let's say...
That's a different animal.
Yeah. What if, a strong player comes to you, they want to prep for some tournament in 6 months?
Okay, 6 months. Okay, my only experience in the highest level, I mean, not as a player, but as a coach, is that I was the coach of US team last year at the world team. So I had to coach a number of 2650 players.
Mm-hmm.
So my work was starting 4:30 in the morning. We would decide the lineup at night, and then I would wake up 4:30 in the morning. Everybody would tell me what they were looking to look into. So I wake up 4:30 in the morning, At that time, I didn't have access to a good computer, so I was using the cloud on ChessBase.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll work until 7. I was the first, maybe 6:50. Yeah, I would say I was the first guy at the breakfast always. I'll have my breakfast, go back, and probably by 9:30 I'll start meeting the players. So I'll share my analysis with them. It should be very in-depth and hardcore, really. Like, you have to have explanations. If it's an equal position, engine says 0, but you have to argue in favor of the position if you believe that's the kind of position they have to enter.
So you would look up openings for all 4 players that were playing, and then
not for the most part. Some didn't need my help, so I would say 3.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Sometimes even 2. Sometimes, for example, they know, oh, I have had this analysis and this guy plays it and I'm going to play it, so good luck. I mean, good for me. I didn't have to do that work, but most of the time it was about 3.
And have you ever coached like young kids at like an international tournament, anything like that?
Yeah, I have.
Oh yeah, weren't we working together at some point and drawing a total?
No, I was last year at Pan Am, but Pan Am is relatively an easy ride because kids have their repertoires, they have their coaches, so you just making sure that they stay on track.
Right.
So I was also at the World Youth. But also I had also some administrative jobs to do, so it was a little bit of a stretch. But I still did the coaching part.
And what's it like when you see your line being played on the board in like an important game?
Then you start having this thought that what if things doesn't go our way? Then you have this worry. No, not the line is wrong. I'm usually very careful about not making mistakes about the choice. But the thing is that what if it's not good enough and the guy gets the position that is okay, but somehow it gets screwed up. But once it worked out in last year in China, Linderman got what we worked on and he equalized, but then I think the guy played another move that I have not analyzed, and then it was still equal, but Linderman didn't know and he got into a worse position. I was like, all that 5 hours and then 2 hours with Linderman himself and some work he has put into it. But okay, later on the guy blundered and he won the match against China. So, but that thinking, yeah, it really gets into you.
Yeah, I can. I imagine. Yeah, it's just nerve-wracking.
And like a player at like Kostya's level or my level, if we were gonna like train, would you tell us to work on everything because we have to build up our knowledge everywhere, or would you target weaknesses?
End game openings probably.
Okay.
End game openings probably. That's what I will do. Yeah.
Actually, this kind of leads us into our next topic, which we'll move on to here. Elshan, what do you think is the value of like having someone with you in person helping you at a tournament versus working like remotely through Skype or something? Do you have any thoughts on that?
It all comes down to how attached that player is to the coach. I think it's more of an emotional, psychological thing because the chess is the same.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's even much easier to do it online. But I have students who have been working with me for 6 years, getting from 1,500 to 2,200. So there is an emotional attachment to the coach. They see him as a person who really cares for them, help them to get there. So if I'm there for them, it will help them better.
Oh, I see.
So I think the chess part doesn't make a difference, but the psychology, the presence, the support. And I can say that about myself. When I was doing my MBA, we had this class about personal leadership. And for example, and then you take a test and it tells you about your personality. I am a one-on-one person. I have a very good leadership and I had the highest score on that, one-on-one. So if I have to manage a small team, I'll be successful, but I cannot manage maybe as good as a group of 20. But if I have a small team, I can be more successful because I can dedicate the time and energy to them. So that works for me like that. So if it's one person, probably it's better in person if I am there.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think it differs from coach to coach and the way they are doing it. I think everyone will have a different answer to that.
Interesting. Yeah, that makes sense that it's kind of based on the just the interpersonal relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've not got a lot of experience with seconds, either on either side of it, but I think that if somebody's there with you, it's easier to be there like all the time, right? Like you can talk about like your opponent's profile during lunch or during dinner the day before, right? If your coach isn't there with you, there's just no way to get that same amount of sort of like contact and focus, in addition to what you said, the sort of emotional touchstone. So
Yeah, I did think about like that myself. You're right about that. Yeah, but also it depends on the player's personality. I myself don't want to think about my opponent until the day of the game. Like, I mean, I will think about the opening, but when I think about him, then I become fussy in my choices. I'm talking about myself. Someone else is different. Someone else, that constant talking helps them to come up with a better plan. So again, I think that could vary from personality to personality.
And
that's
then,
a point.
And then I've talked to Sam Shanklin about this once, and he said there's a very strong advantage to having your second be in a different time zone, where it's daytime for them when it's nighttime for you, so that they can get the pairings, and then you go to sleep and they work the whole time you sleep, and then you get up in the morning and they brief you.
That's actually true, because that was basically, so my different time zone was that I was waking up 3 hours earlier, so
you were basically creating
that. Yeah, I was creating that. Yeah. So yeah. I go there, I'm meeting, I don't know, Sam Sabian or Lenderman or Darius Schwartz, and then, okay, guys, this is what I've done.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm there, I'm giving them some ideas, some advice, or whatever I've looked at. Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Yeah, and Sam said then the second should like sleep during the game. That's when they should be asleep.
Actually, that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I was taking a couple of hours nap, then I will wake up, then I'll try to look into some more games, a little bit, maybe rest just myself, I don't know, read some book, something just to distract myself. Then we will decide the team lineup.
Still create that condition.
Yeah. So John would announce the team lineup around 10, latest 10:30, and I'll go to bed right away. I would just tell them to email me whatever you have, and I'll wake up 4:30. So 6 hours of sleep, I'll work, and then, yeah.
That's cool. I think that's how they did it with Team Magnus as well. Like they would be in, I think Thailand it was, and yeah, just completely different time zone, and right, working during the day in a tropical climate, and yeah, getting to sleep during the games. No, it makes sense. I guess yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking about. Like that could be a possible value of working remotely, but to me, it does make sense. Like in person, it's always just like, I think it's a little bit easier and you get more done. That's it. I remember Elshan, you were helping me once when I was overseas at the Isle of Man, and once in St. Louis as well. And you were just giving me like some basic advice before each game. I actually think the profile of the opponent is a little bit underrated. I don't think it's all about the opening. I remember for one game, I don't want to mention the player, but we you looked at their games and you're like, yeah, they're not that good against like Catalan or like Fianchetto setups. And at the time I was kind of, playing Fianchetto stuff sometimes, otherwise playing other stuff. And yeah, in this game I decided, well, let's do the Fianchetto, and it turned out well. So that one like kind of judgment, like this player doesn't like this kind of position or this kind of position, can be, I think, just as useful as a novelty or something like that.
Good point. I had two coaches who were very good, and they coached me during the tournament. Were very good at that. Short and Onishak. They will look at the guy and they would. I mean, that's why they're also very good players, right? Both of them. I mean, great players. So that's one. With these two players, I had great experience in that term. So maybe, for example, if you wanted to make a difference between being a chess instructor and a chess coach, maybe that touch is very important. Like with both of them, great experiences and great results as well. In Pan Am 15 and all the other Pan Ams we qualified, and with Short we won. We were an underdog, but we won the third place bronze medal in 2006 Asian Games, which is the only medal Iran ever won in Asian Games.
Was that with the team, your national team?
With the national team, yeah.
Oh, cool.
With the then national team.
And so, Is that because these guys, they know everyone and they know their profile, or they can understand the player based on their games?
That, for example, one example, I am playing a blitz match with Sashikiran. The winner at least secures this silver medal in the Asian indoor games, and those events are important. The Asian Olympic Games are very important for the sport ministries, everything, and the budget that sport, because chess is seen as a sport. So for the budget, the federation could get anything; it could define every single medal counted. So I'm playing this blitz match, and he was like, "Elshan, let's be honest. He's stronger than you. I mean, he's a more past 2700 player, but you should not be a fixed target." I was like, "What do you mean? You should play something out of ordinary." So we prepped Budapest Gambit for a blitz game, and it actually worked out. Because we entered the position, just said, he gets his 2 bishops, you get a solid position, and you start making this kind of moves like a4, you just put a pin on the position, not, how to say, you put these, I would call them screws, like you just stop everything. And you just stop him, and then he will try to do something, and he would self-destruct. And that's exactly what happened. Because he is a classical player, he has white pieces, and he feels that he needs to do something, but the time is running out. He has only 3 minutes. He will start burning time, and he'll give you chances. That's exactly what happened. I ended up losing that match, but his strategy with black pieces paid off. I actually only 4 games, I scored 1.5 only with black pieces.
Wow.
He told me to play more solid with white, and I didn't listen to him, and I lost both white and black games.
There you go.
So that's one example, and but this in 15, and when I was here in the U.S., I had more experience. I had more agreement with what Anishuk used to tell me, and because there's more similarity in our styles of playing, it was easier for me to understand what he means. So
with Anishuk, you were working with him as part of the Texas Tech team.
Yeah.
And how many years were you there?
From 12 to 16.
Oh, okay. And so, yeah, actually, I've always want to know, what's the training at the university teams like? Is that like a weekly thing? Does it ramp up before like a big team event?
Well, it was a bit different for me. I was in a PhD program. For me, the training was that I would check some openings. I'll play many blitz games against Alex, and then we will analyze them. And it was working just fine for me.
Wow. And he would give you similar advice to Short, like before a game.
We had other trainings too. Sorry to interrupt. We had other trainings too. We had positions, some of the Devrutsky stuff, the regular things everybody does. But for me, what was helping most was this analysis we were doing, trying to understand the position. And he has a very deep understanding of certain positions, and making sure that he achieves that kind of positions. That was the biggest lesson actually. He could lead the position, he could choose the lines he wanted, not about what the engine messages, but what is good for me. And getting those kind of positions and playing at like a 2700 level.
Wow.
And that was a very interesting approach.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That was a big lesson. Yeah. So you were asking something. Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. Yeah, I was wondering if he would give you similar advice against certain players, like how to. Was it more about getting the positions that you were comfortable in, or did you ever like target opponents, in any specific way?
In Pan Ams, you don't have as much time. So wasn't practical to do that as much. But one thing I think it would stand out for our team was that we always had a camp before the Pan Am, and that was our key to success. Some physical training, some getting together, some working on some openings, and we always do a 3 to 5 days to a week camp before.
Getting together, that makes sense. I feel like that always just seems so fun. Just doing a little training camp before an event, getting in shape. Interesting. Okay, let's maybe we can go into the next topic here. Kind of going off a little bit different direction, but it could be interesting to talk about. What are the current opening trends for the 3 different levels, kind of like beginner, club, and pro level? Anything you've noticed?
Yeah, that's. I cannot say for the club, but I think they are shifting toward in-depth main lines, like in openings. not main lines. Like, I think the most principal openings are trending for players between 1800 to 2400 at that range.
Mm.
A lot of Sicilian, a lot of E45, a lot of King's Indian, less Grunfeld, a lot of Queen's Gambit. Am I right, David? You agree with me?
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. You know better than me, but so far that makes sense. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. That's what I see. I think that's what when I still play, I see that's the most I have to face and I have to prepare against.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
in the highest level,
I've been seeing more and more E45 in general. I think that's sort of gone up in popularity a bit.
You mean in that range of 1800 to 2400 or in the top level?
Yeah, because I think like before, I think the Sicilian's always been considerably more popular than the E5 in the past, and now I don't know, it might be 50-50 or so between those two.
Well, the thing is that I still look at the games of players 2200, 2400. I only look at my students' games who are 1800 to 2200. So my judgment will not be as I will not represent the correct statistics because I don't see as much games of the 1800 to 2200s.
Yeah.
But you might be right actually. I would say it's 50-50 in that level of 20 to 2400. I'm playing E45 and Sicilian against E4. I see a lot of King's Indian and a lot of Queen's Gambit.
Yeah.
Now, do you do much work with Leela nowadays?
Not as much as I used to. I look at Leela exclusively to find candidate moves because for it to give you a very thorough calculation and direct line, like very concrete lines, it takes a long time with Leela, no matter how good your computer is. So I just look at Leela and Fat Fritz for candidate moves and certain lines, and then I check it with the newest Stockfish.
So Leela and then the latest Stockfish.
Yes, please.
Gotcha. And you said, I mean, does that mean you were doing it more before? You're saying not so much lately.
Using Leela,
yeah.
I was relying on the lines it was suggesting, and I was taking the evaluation seriously. I still take it seriously, but not as much because Stockfish kind of accuracy overrules concepts and ideas. Sadly.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I guess I hear that a lot now that players just using both basically to double check.
And I play correspondence chess. I can be a little bit biased, so I mean I don't. It's not a joy, but I like analyzing. So I thought I can just try some lines, and some other guy is basically doing the job for me, half of the job, by playing a correspondence game. So yeah, if I only rely on Leela, I probably will just lose another 300 points in correspondence. So
have you played much correspondence?
Not much, and once I got flagged, I forgot to make a move with white pieces in a dead drawn Berlin against Shikiran. So I should be like, I lost that game, and because it was my first rating, I lost some rating, but I'm like 24-5. But I should be 24-25. I mean, not a big deal.
Oh wow,
that's my level.
Do a lot of GMs play? You said it was Sasha Kiran you're playing against?
Sasha Kiran plays. Dutch. I see many Dutch GMs. I don't know US GMs much involved with it. Yeah. I just play to kind of test my openings. I don't care about winning or. I mean, I haven't won any games actually. I have like 15 draws or something.
Yeah, it's hard.
And that one game I just got flagged.
Right.
No, but once the depth goes to depth 67, 70, it just becomes unreal. You can just check some of the games I've played. It's just very unreal. It loses practicality. I mean, after a certain point, it becomes so complex that I lose interest in that game. I just want to finish the game fast. So if I see a forced draw, I just pick it up. I don't try to kind of linger and make the game going. As long as it's strategically interesting for me, I want the game stays complex. But once the complexity exceeds my understanding, I mean, goes beyond my understanding of chess, then I just look for some forced line to make a draw.
Yeah, so It's so deep. I don't even understand how anyone wins a game anymore at this level.
That's 67, Kostya. 67.
But they're both at 67.
That's like the whole game if you've already played the opening.
Yeah, yeah. And you play 50 moves theory, and you just begin to explore other options already.
Right.
So yeah, I'm interested in the game until move 20, and then I just like, okay, this is beyond me, and the engine shows 0, and I don't understand why it shows 0. So let's just move on. Let's find a, I don't know, forced draw or perpetual or something. I lose interest.
Yeah. Well. But do you find that it helps your regular games to explore the openings that deeply? Like, do you pick up ideas that you can use later?
Yeah. You know, the reason I don't have a job is that I love chess, and the more I see and I learn, it just makes me feel good.
Yeah.
So any parents out there, depending on whether you want your kids to feel good or to have a job, introduce them to chess or don't.
I have 2 master's degree. I'm just telling you, I just have 2 master's degree. I did my education.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, classic question, you know, for beginners who don't really know a lot of openings, do you recommend that people learn something simple like, you know, London system, or, you know, just take the bullet, play e4, and just try to get better at those positions?
David, what do you think? I would like to know your opinion first on this one.
My opinion, I let my students pick on openings usually, but usually I make them play a whole bunch of different openings, even from an early point. Like I'll make them play, but sequentially, not all like at the same time. Not like, you know, one game the French, the next game the Car, the next game the Alliations defense or something. But I'll be like, for the next 2 months play e4, and then for the next 2 months play d4, and for the next 2 months. Well, I mean, I consider like d4 with c4 or d4 with, you know, without c4 as 2 different ones, right? Mm-hmm. You know, now for 2 months play the English. Now for 2 months play the Grunfeld, and just have them like go around and really get a breadth of experience with different types of positions.
Mm-hmm. I would say I do it in a different way. What I do is that I try to have them, if they are playing d4 or e4 or whatever they choose to play, I'm okay, but I just want to make sure they play the most number of different pawn structures.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, in my opinion, London doesn't offer that many pawn structures. You get reverse Queen's Gambit, mm-hmm. and you get the square setup, which you can call a reverse Slav, and that's all you get. Sometimes you can get Queen's Gambit from white side if you go c4.
Right.
So that will restrict your pawn structures. So I would suggest if they go d4, play d4, c4, and not try maybe Nimzo with f3, Nimzo with e3, see different fluid, I'd say more sharper pawn structures, see these mm-hmm. hanging pawns and IQP, and just see it, you know, experience it. But people are becoming more result oriented. So once they want it, then you have to show it to them. They just don't want their pawn structure to be loose or I don't know. So people are becoming more reserved about their pawn structure. They want it solid. They want to know where the pieces belong to. Mm-hmm. So you see less people are interested in playing IQPs or hanging pawns. But I would suggest for someone to develop a good sense of game of chess, to play openings that offers them as many pawn structure as possible.
Yeah.
So they can get better. I mean, pretty much the same.
At the base, we agree then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. I think variety is important, and especially not shying away from sharp positions, I think, is important, because then I think a lot of players have a hard time then overcoming and trying to play something new, and when they are used to this comfort zone of the London or something like that. I would just prefer no comfort zone. Just you're always just trying to play ambitious lines and maximize your chances.
I mean, when you start out playing, everything's confusing at first, right? For like a beginning player, it doesn't matter what opening we're playing that we look at and we recognize it. They look at the board and it's just like they don't know what's going on, right? There's just pieces going all over the place. So they don't have a comfort zone at first. And I think you never want, I think you don't want to like show them how to build a comfort zone, because then they'll never want to come out. So just at first they'll accept that it's chaotic and they don't know what's going on. So they'll be fine playing whatever opening. And I think you just want to run with that.
And you should help players to to get comfortable with the idea of losing a game and come back and play again. Because to develop that tough skin, I have that problem myself. Rebound is one of my weaknesses to get to a higher level in chess. That was one of my weaknesses. So if they get comfortable of, okay, I lost this game, I can come back and play another sharp game. That helps building character too. I believe so.
Yeah, you need the confidence, right, to just play dynamic, even though you lost your last 2 games or whatever.
I can share a very important experience of mine, how I became a GM. So 1997 World Youth, under 12, I'm representing Iran, lost the first 2 games, and specifically from white side, I just lost without a fight. So the coach said, look, you suck at d4, c4, let's play Tour and London. I won all of my rest of the games in the tournament, then I was hooked. This is it, my comfort zone. All the way to become a GM. I hardly would play some e4 games, some c4 games, but main opening, that. Then I stagnated for 2 years until I changed my openings. I always had a hard time playing sharp games as a GM. And because as black I was playing Sicilian, I'm more comfortable playing sharp games from black side than from white side. Just because I was playing Sicilian all the time.
Right, and skipping the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. I was playing King's Indian with black and Sicilian. So I basically scored my norms and points with black pieces. I mean, really, my norm is all of the crucial games are black wins.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that's funny.
So I've got King's Indian defense players who sometimes ask me like if they can just play the King's Indian attack as white and like do the same thing that they do in their black games.
So that's the problem. People don't understand that they're different pawn structures. They're completely different ideas, in my opinion.
Well, there you go.
What do you think?
There you go.
What do you think?
I don't really know. I haven't played much King's Indian defense or King's Indian attacks, so.
There are different openings. They are completely different, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If your opponent goes e5, I can still reverse King's Indian, but King's Indian attack with pawn on e6 is completely different opening.
Right.
So if they play a reverse, and the thing is that at some point e4 is not possible. So sometimes you must go c4. So you have to be open to. You may have the King's Indian setup, but you may go c4. You may go e4. Sometimes it's a reverse Benoni. Sometimes you have to. Different stories. Again, it all boils down to pawn structures.
Cool.
My humble
opinion. No, that makes sense. Okay, let's go on to the last question. This is kind of a 2-part question. First part, what was it like to coach Kostya? Like I mentioned, Elshan helped me get that final IM norm and get to over 2400. And then second part, what does Kostya have to do to get to GM?
Okay. That helping you to get IM was, in my opinion, walk in the park, because your main problem was evaluation. And we managed to fix it to a good extent. I think I showed you my 9 imbalances about evaluation, and you did pretty good in the class, and you did the homeworks I gave you. And I was confident you would score. I didn't know that it's going to happen this fast, but I was confident that, because your main problem at that level and the things you were playing was evaluation. You had problem with overestimating your positions. So with few games, I could immediately tell what you need to do. So in terms of working, and it actually ended up working out, it was a walk in the park.
Oh.
Now, getting to the GM title, okay, that is $1 million question. Because everyone has his own path. So, and I'm not trying to sell the title overly, like I'm just saying it's too difficult because I'm a GM and others are not. But the thing is that psychology plays a very big role. I think you really have to pick up on practical decisions. I played Blitz in many tournaments on chess.com, Blitz everywhere, and play different players. And I see my evaluation is pretty good and I can outplay, but then sometimes my opponent makes this weird move, which I do not consider at all, and it just changes the dynamic of the game. And the trend is still in my favor, but it's not exactly the same clear path I was going through. And then they can end up flipping the game or winning or drawing. Okay, it's a blitz, but still, or even in the longer time control. Like I don't really just get gradually outplayed, but there are these critical moments that my opponents sometimes come up with the move that just changes the dynamic of the game.
Right.
And you really have to get good at that. And your opponent needs to be more solid. And when I say solid, meaning that you have to know more in depth what you play these days. Sadly, that's a fact. In my time, it wasn't as hard in 2005, but that's ancient time for a lot of your listeners, audience. That's already ancient time. But yeah, opening is very important, and be physically prepared. I learned that from Anishuk. Also, being
like an Iron Man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but he's in good control of his energy during the game. How to budget it. Like.
So Elshan, did you know that Kostya has a problem with the Benoni? Of all terrible openings to not be able to beat with white, he has a real problem with the Benoni. What's he supposed to do about that?
That's a good question.
Studying it, I guess. Spending time, being more objective. The thing is that these days you cannot even beat any opening. Like you cannot even beat e4, c5, c3, b6. I can tell you. If your opponent analyzes this with black, you cannot just show up and just make reasonable moves and expect advantage. You cannot even beat that. I can guarantee that to you. There are correspondence games that white cannot win against this move. b6 sounds like an absolute crap, right? I'm sorry for the use of word. But that, just, people can go b6 there.
Yeah.
And then you just e4, c5, c3, b6, and they hold. So if somebody analyzes this line.
So the answer isn't d4, bishop b7, d5 with a big white advantage.
No, it's not.
No, it's harder than that. Okay.
Yeah. So once you have problem with that you cannot say I choose this setup against Benoni and I'm gonna go fine. I'm gonna be fine. Maybe it works for you if you are Deriev already, but that's like 30 years of experience in the highest level. You can't do that. Well, if you are trying to become a GM, then you have to put the time, move by move, learn your ideas, make sure all the tactics are working out, and you achieve the position you want to achieve.
Yeah, I remember one of the most useful things you told me that I'll remember from back then was that every new, I think you said new IM or GM had some kind of like a new approach to, not a new approach to the game, but they had something new they brought to the game. They didn't just copy the openings of someone and just use that.
Yeah, some sort of a contribution. That's right. It's like you become a professor. You write a thesis. That's your contribution to the game. And it's becoming narrower and narrower because we have more and more theory, but it's still a contribution.
Okay. And
so I can tell you what your contribution was with Nimzo. That line with b6 was very trendy at the time, and Kostya killed it.
Wait, I did? The b6 line?
d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, queen c2, b6. We killed it in our analysis. And now he's out of passion.
Oh.
It's just a good open.
I barely remember that. I remember, prepping some 92 stuff, which was fun. Nice. I also want to contribute. What's that?
Everybody has his own contribution. It's still relevant today.
Nice.
Well, here's my contribution, Elshan. E4, E5, F4, E takes F4, knight F3, bishop E7. Now in this position, normally you play bishop C4, so that on bishop H4 check you can play king F1. Right, bishop C4 is normal. But in this position, I've played D4.
Awesome. And bishop H4, king E2?
2.
This is not refuted. I was analyzing this like 2 months ago or 1 month ago on the high depth and looking at all the correspondence games. Actually, white can hold.
Yeah.
But there is a merit into this.
My opponents play D5, I take. They play queen E7 check. I bring my king up to D3. Bishop F5 check, king C4.
Okay, that is a little bit too far. but because it sounds like, but this holds actually. Bishop E7, this works. I mean, there is only maybe one line that black can get a lot to play, but actually there is a merit into this. Awesome. But I'm sure it was working better in our times than nowadays because it sounds extremely risky these days.
Yeah.
I'm very confused about that. the position.
E4, E5, F4, E takes F4, knight F3, bishop E7, D4, bishop G7, bishop H4, check, king E2.
Oh, sorry. I thought Black's bishop was still on F8, so I'm like, why isn't there queen B4?
There's queen B4 mate.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, oh, bishop is on H4. Okay, okay.
Because normally, Kostya, in the bishop E7 line, white plays bishop C4.
Yeah.
Clear F1 for the king, and then instead of playing bishop H4 check, Black switches to knight F6 because the bishop on C4 is not well placed against knight F6.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But after bishop E7, I came up with the idea of playing D4 there. And apparently Elshan says I could maybe grovel a draw in that position.
I would say with a bit of luck, but I think still, I mean,
with some luck, my king can run through the center of the board with a sign like, try and get me.
You know, it's very provocative actually. In terms of a good psychological decision, I would consider it.
Yeah.
If you are in a must-win situation, you know, and your opponent is a super solid Berlin player, you know, imagine that. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, he can, instead of trying to see how many moves he has memorized in Berlin, you can provoke him to beat you, especially if he's a player your own level or maybe even higher, and you need to beat that person.
Yeah.
If you provoke them, they enter the fight, and bam! If you have few moves and they have to make tough decisions, you know, if you are in a desperate winning situation, that's not a bad choice actually.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Well, all right, guys.
Cool.
I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks, Elshan, so much for joining us. This was great. A lot of interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And if you guys want to check out Elshan's new book, Sherlock's Method, which is basically like a training guide to prep for a tournament coming up, like exercises, tactical, positional, decision making, Endgame. Yeah, it looks like a really interesting book to check out. I put the link in the chat. You can also email Elshan for a signed copy at elshan.moradiabadi@gmail.com. And yeah, Elshan, are you doing anything soon? Are you streaming videos, articles?
Yeah, I have few ideas in mind, but stream I don't know, but probably videos and some articles. And I have some book ideas in mind, but for now I put it to rest because it was already a lot of work for this one. So, but I have a very good idea. We discussed it with Sabina. We'll see if we would materialize the idea or not. But
it seems like you would be a really strong contestant on Ultimate Sensei. So maybe we can get you in there one day as we keep running those.
I would love to, sure. If you guys, I like challenges, being challenged as a coach, and I really like the job. I mean, you know, some part is difficult sometimes, but I love the challenge.
That'd be really cool.
Sure.
All right, guys. We'll be wrapping it up here. We'll be back in a little bit with the Streamer Battle League. We have a match coming up versus Mechanics Chess at 5 p.m. today Pacific time. If you guys want to play in that, all you have to do is just be here before then, and you can already check out the tournament links in the chat there. Make sure you're a part of our chess.com club. Yeah, thanks so much, Elshan. This was really great. I'm sure people learned a lot. And
thank you so much for having me. Thanks, David. It was good talking to you after a long time.
Yeah.
Have a great afternoon and evening, and hope to see you sometime. Maybe joining the challenge.
All right.
Hope to have you back soon. Take care, everyone.
That's a great time. Take care.